Hello, I'm Mandy Heinia, and this is In a Day's Work, my speech on childcare workers and general information on childcare. I would like to start this off by saying I could not for the life of me figure out how to put the PowerPoint in the video. I tried my hardest. I guess I'm more technologically challenged than I thought I was, so that's embarrassing. But anyways, I have it right here. I have it memorized. So I will only be looking over at it for keywords and to kind of remind myself a little bit more, but I do have it right here to reference the quotes and for my visual aid. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss was the different forms of childcare, because I feel like many people just think that it's daycare and babysitting and that's it, until they go into pre-K, but it's a lot more than that. So there's at-home care, there's facility childcare centers, which is what I work at. I work at the YMCA's Child Watch. There is private practice ones. There's like therapeutic childcare centers where like it focuses on art therapy and things like that. There is the occasional babysitter, and there is nanny shares. And nanny shares are interesting. I feel like people don't really know what they are. So nanny shares are when a group of kids gets with one or two nannies, depending on how many kids there are, and they watch the kids to make it more affordable for moms that can't afford their own nanny. And it's also nice because there's more leeway with the hours and everything than there would be at like a childcare center, you know, because those are usually like 9 to 5. Sorry, I just worked 10 hours, so a little bit tired. So I think nanny cares are cool, and they're a great option for people that cannot afford to take their kids to daycare or cannot afford for their kids to go have their own nanny. But with any childcare, you need to be licensed. Unless you are a single practitioner working with less than 6 kids for less than 4 hours, you do not need to be licensed then. But if you are watching more than 6 kids for more than 4 hours, or more than 6 kids in general, you need to be licensed for that. The difference in licensing is kind of interesting though, because there is different registrations you can do. So if you are registered to be a daycare, you have different guidelines than you will for if you are a facility doing childcare. One of the things that daycares do that we cannot do at the YMCA is we cannot change diapers. We cannot watch kids for more than 2 hours at a time, and we cannot feed them or give them any drinks unless their parents leave a water bottle, or if they're an infant, if the parents leave a bottle of milk. We can make milk, put the solution in the water, you know, mix it up, and we can give them the bottle, or we could give them just, you know, breast milk with the bottle, but we cannot provide anything like that. It has to be fully from the parents, and it has to be labeled and everything like that. The other thing that I think that goes into the different forms of childcare is there's different paperwork for each childcare. The sheets that you might have to do at a daycare are different than the ones that you're gonna have to do at the YMCA. So at the YMCA, we have the main sheet, which is the child information sheet, and that is my documentation that I will show in a minute, but it has like a lot of information about the kids on there. Then there is injury forms and behavior sheets, and those happen when a kid might not be behaving in the best way. And if there is an injury involving blood of any sorts, or anything that happens with the head, even if a kid is just leaning over and it bonks its head a little bit on something and doesn't cry, you still have to fill out an information sheet due to head trauma, because they might decide that they have a concussion later, and then we could get sued. So, and we have to do questionable abuse forms and call CPS if we have any sign of abuse from anywhere. We have to do employee forms, which are just like hours and everything like that. We have to do sign in and out sheets for the parents, and then we have to do training tests, and we do 20 training tests 2 times annually. So we do about 40 trainings a year. pretty in-depth on, you know, child abuse, child welfare, things like that. And we even do like a lifeguard training. And we are Red Cross certified for CPR, AED, and first aid at the YMCA. Every employee is, even if they're working with kids or not. So this is the example of the child info sheet that we use at the YMCA. It just looks like this. There's a front and a back. And it has kid's first name, parents' first name, emergency contact, address, allergies, any pre-existing conditions a kid might have, things like that, things that we need to know to be able to care for them the best we can. And then on this side is our list of rules and regulations and things like that, where the parents initial and then they sign at the bottom and then we sign at the bottom. So we have to go through every single child's information sheet, and an employee has to go through every single one and sign it. I think this week alone we've gotten 60 new kids. So I've been working, I think I worked 60 hours this week, and I had to go through every single sheet and sign it, and it was a lot of work, but it's nice to know. It's things that we need to know. You know, we need to know if kids have allergies or conditions or things like that, and we don't turn any kids away to any of those. Which brings me into the second point, which is that you need to have guidelines for any childcare provider. One of the main ones that I think of when I think of guidelines that need to be followed are age ranges. So I think it's important that you find one age range and you stick to it. One of those reasons being that older kids could bring in choking hazards and just not even know it. You know, the other day we had a kid have some friendship bracelets in his bag, and they were those little loom band ones. And those little rubber things could get lodged into an infant's throat so easily. So we need to keep an age range and stick to it. So usually when we do that, we group the kids. So at the YMCA, we have an infant room, which is 0 to 1, a toddler room, which is 1 that can walk, and then to 2, and then we have a pre-K room, which is 3 to 4. And so all of the choking hazards are out of those infant and toddler rooms. Another reason that this is important is because the materials in the pre-K room are totally different from the materials in the toddler room. A pre-K age kid isn't gonna come in and find a rattle and be entertained for an hours, but a baby will. So it's important that you have those guidelines and you have those separations to make sure that each kid, you know, is sticking to their own area, and it reduces the risk of incidents like that happening. Another guideline that I think as practitioners we need to follow is that we need to not be distracted, whether that means emotionally or physically. And one of the things that I think I have to deal with on a regular basis is I'm on a bunch of meds, and I have a lot of stuff going on in my life. I work 2 jobs, I'm in school full time, I have a lot to do. I do something every day, that's why I have that calendar. So when I go to work, I have to leave that all behind. I can't be thinking about what assignment is due or, you know, whatever. So I have to leave all of that behind, and I also put my phone away. The second I get to work, my phone goes in our little cubby areas, and I don't go on it. And I think that that's important because it's in doing my research, which I included in this PowerPoint, I read this article that was about distracted practitioners and how that can affect kids. And one of the main things it said was that the risk of injury or incidents when you're on your phone is way higher, because if a kid knows you're not looking, they're gonna take that toy, they're gonna hit that kid, you know. And because you're distracted, you're not gonna see what happened, so you're not gonna know what to do about the situation. So I think that being not distracted mentally and physically is the most important guideline for us to have. As far as the age range thing goes, that one is super important, but with COVID and everything going on, I know at the Y we've been trying to be more lenient because we know parents are having a hard time finding childcare for their kids. So we are taking 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, when usually as soon as they hit 5 we cut it off. 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, so we've been more lenient on it, but I think that getting caught up in the idea of exclusivity and not wanting to be exclusive can be damaging, because you need to have those guidelines in order to create a more safe environment. But I know for me, like, I want to be that home away from home. I want to have all the kids, you know, come and hang out with me. One of those things being like, I think it makes me feel flattered when like an older kid like wants to come in and wants to talk to me and tell me how their day went. But on my end, I need to make sure that I am not, you know, letting them in. Or if they are coming in and they are older, they can't be rowdy or have choking hazards. So the last point that I wanted to speak on was rules and regulations. And I think that this is an important thing to talk about, because you can't keep a list of rules on a wall. Like, babies aren't going to understand, toddlers aren't going to understand. Most of the kids that we watch don't know how to read, so it's a waste of resources to, you know, keep a thing on the wall that says it. So I think in that, one of the things we do is we keep a list of rules for parents to follow. And it's right when they come in. We have the computer, we have the sign-in sheets, and we have this like paper thing, you know, the thing that keeps the paper up but it's clear, and it has a list of bulleted rules that are just, they're easy and they're ones that parents can follow that makes our lives a lot easier. One of those is that kids over 5 need to be wearing a mask, and that all kids need to be wearing their shoes. I cannot remember a day where I did not go home with puke, spit up, pee, poop, anything, any bodily fluids. They get on you all the time, and they get on the floor too, so shoes are important. Shoes are a must-have. That floor is disgusting no matter how much we clean it. And those are like the 2 main rules I think that parents don't usually stick to, that I wish they would, but we keep that list up there for a reason, so that it makes our job a lot easier, and that we don't have to nitpick certain things and like put, you know, 100 shoes on 50 kids, because that would be a lot. And then the other thing that we do is, since rules are usually made, you know, to prevent incidents, we just make sure that we're not distracted. Like I said before, you know, incidents are going to happen when your back is turned, and they're going to happen if you're on your phone. So I just try to make sure I'm like watching with an objective eye, not a subjective eye, and that I'm making sure I know the details of the situation before I call a kid's parent or talk to a parent about the situation that happened. And the one that I quoted on my PowerPoint was about childcare in general, and it was, centers often care for 75 to 175 children. Most states require pre-service training in childcare and ratios of children to be equivalent to child caregivers, which is something that we do at the Y. That's a state rule that we have to follow. I read the WAC codes every year. And it is 10 kids to 1 staff. So if it was just me, it'd be 10 kids, you know, 10 staff, we could have 100 kids. I wish we didn't, but we could have upwards of 70 to 175 kids, like the quote said. So I included it in my PowerPoint. And conclusion is that I think most people don't understand why I love my job. You know, I come home with bodily fluids on me. I smell like infant puke. It's a lot of work, you know, and I feel like that's why I love it so much, is I feel like what I'm doing is making a huge difference. You know, I'm watching these kids, I'm taking care of them, I'm being their home away from home, but I'm still making sure that the area is safe, it is child-proof, and it is like nice and clean. I will include a video at the end of a recent project me and my coworker Emily did, because we wanted to decorate for St. Patrick's Day, and that's just like one of the things that we do to make sure that the space is nice and cool. So I wanted to say that childcare is a lot more than people think it is, and that's not me trying to be persuasive, that's stating a fact. And I wanted to speak on it and just let people know what I do on a daily basis, because I think it's interesting and I love my job. So that's it. Bye.